And welcome to another edition of College Admissions Unscripted. I'm your co-host, Rob Schwartz, along with my tag team partner, Trevor Mizrahi. Today, we are going to talk one of the most important parts of the college application is the college essay. And a lot of families reach out to people like us when they have questions about how to handle the process. Why does it matter? How important is it? And we're going to take a few minutes to cover some of those important topics today. Let me give Trev the floor. Trev, when you look at essays, when you're reviewing essays, what is the number one piece of advice you give to your students?
So it's a good question. The college essay really has to be representative, in my opinion, of the student and their vulnerabilities. And to be honest with you, if you can shape your message around what makes me unique and different, but also at the same time sharing those vulnerabilities, I've spoken with enough admissions readers that they say that's what really pops out on the page, is to really kind of get into the heart of what this student is really about. How did they become the person who they are today? And what were those challenges that actually got them there? So from my point of view, it's always about the brainstorming. What are some of the values that you want to bring to the forefront that the colleges really should know about you? And the question I think that we really need to have as the jumping off point is, does this college know enough about me after they've read this piece?
Now, I would take a slightly different tact on a similar concept. One thing I don't want to see from students is just this sort of outpouring of negativity. We really want to understand the challenge, if there has been one, because it provides context to what we see in terms of the classes you've taken, the grades you've earned, if you're providing a standardized test, what access to extracurricular opportunities you had. But it's not a sob story. Think of it like you are applying for a job, and you provide your resume and you slide it across that desk, and it is just a litany of, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, I don't really like this, I don't want to do that. Who wants to bring you into that company? They're looking for positivity. They're looking for how you conquered problems, not a litany of problems. In terms of tackling that topic, make sure you're looking at the outcomes, the positive values that come from it, and not get bogged down too much in the woe is me part of that process, because I think that's where a lot of students, especially in the modern era, get lost.
Rob, what if there's that student that says, I never really had that significant challenge in my life. I really can't pinpoint something that I've been through that is worth talking about. Can you structure an essay even if you didn't have one of those challenges?
It's a good question. Yeah. Believe me, we work with plenty of students who their lives are pretty uneventful. They haven't had people pass away. They haven't dealt with cancer. They haven't had really, really big struggles. The best advice I could possibly give on that front, Trevor, is don't force a square peg in a round hole. Don't try to have tragedy in your life when there isn't any. Focus on how you've taken advantage of opportunity. That's a very, very different perspective on a similar topic. How you take advantage of opportunity is just as important to a college as how you dealt with adversity.
Now think of it under this type of framework. Think of an upside down triangle. You have your topic, the structure, and then the details. Details are more, think of it as the so what. So what if you did this? Give some insight so that the reader understands, why is this important? Why is this specific detail that you provided to me maybe different than the one that you started with above? And what does it teach me that is something unique about you? So if you just think of that construct of the upside down triangle, that could help you just with your structure of it. Now, Rob, when it comes to approaching this, do you suggest students do an outline?
Yes. I think students need to be organized in this process, especially if they're tackling things like the University of California essays, where you have 8 prompts to choose from and you have to write 4 essays. My encouragement to students is take the time to actually read the prompts a couple of times, think about them, be methodical, and then just get out a sheet of paper. Draw 8 equally sized circles on that piece of paper. Label them 1 through 8. read the prompt one more time, and then whatever you think of inside of 60 seconds that you feel you have in your life that would help you address that topic, write it in the circle. You can write that same topic as many times as you want if you feel it answers the prompt. But here's the catch. We're only going to cover that topic once. Each essay is going to introduce a new topic, a new layer of the onion that's being peeled away. So in that second iteration, you look at your organized list of 8 circles, and let's say you wrote down the topic of basketball because you play basketball for your team, or you're in an AAU team, and basketball is a big part of your life. And you wrote it down in circle 1, and you wrote it down in circle 2, and you wrote it down in circle 5. We're going to talk about basketball once. So looking at those prompts for those 3 circles, which one allows you to tell the most compelling story about basketball in your life? Whichever one that is, highlight it, underline it, you're going to write that essay on that topic. The others, X's through basketball, narrow out all of the duplicated items, and then look at what's left. If you have to write 5 essays and then whittle one of the one that you just don't feel tells the most compelling story, and you kick that one out of the list, that's a great way to go. But remember, the key here is, number 1, telling 4 different stories, and number 2, much to Trevor's point, the how and the why. That's where your money is made. If you're just, I did this, you are not helping your cause in any way. Number 1, because it's boring, and number 2, because you've already told us that in your application. So get to the how and the why. Help us identify what makes your experience special or different for you. How has it shaped you as a human being, and how do we see that affecting your opportunities and what you bring to the table as a student at this college or university? That's the reason, more than pretty much anything else beyond grades, that's going to help you get into that school.
That is such good advice. And then if I can maybe piggyback on what Rob was just mentioning, in the UC personal insight questions, PIQs, we really don't have the luxury of expanding on details too much. So think of this for the UC insight questions more as you can tell, not show, as much as you would show on the personal statement where you have a lot more length to go into details. And then one other thing about supplemental essays, especially the why us or why this school essay. The one thing that students fail every single time when they approach this essay is, well, it's your location. It's your ability to have small class sizes. Even though those details might be important, it shares nothing with the school as to why you would be a good fit for that institution.
Trevor makes another really great point. The whole idea of helping a complete stranger who's got 10 to 12 minutes to read your application understand why they're supposed to say yes to you is your goal. It is not to say, I have this GPA and I have this test score and I have this list of extracurricular activities, so I'm clearly smart enough or talented enough to go to your school. That is this much of the discussion when we get to those highly selective colleges. If you don't have those things, you're making their job easy. But to assume that that in and of itself is enough for admission is an outright mistake. Your personality matters. Your experience matters. Frankly, are you a likable person? Matters. So take the time to be thoughtful in this process. If you don't know what you're doing, reach out to professionals like us, ask questions, get help in the editing process, but recognize also, and this I think is something that we walk that fine line very well, we recognize that it's your voice. And the voice of a 40-something-year-old person and a 17-year-old person are not the same voice. I'm not interested in writing your essay. I have no interest in doing that. I'm simply helping you bring your voice out. So when you're seeking out help with essays, recognize you're not interested in someone who's going to doctor your work, someone who's going to help you let your voice come out the best way possible and tell your best story. That's your goal.
Best piece of advice I could probably give to close is think of uncommon examples. Don't be the common student that just talks about the very vanilla things. Give some uncommon examples. Use uncommon language that might bring or paint a picture for the reader that really shows them how you felt in that moment. And use the words that you feel would be best illustrative of how to paint that picture that you're hoping to display.
Now, the corollary of that is be careful about using the $8 word that you're just unfamiliar with, because it sounds good. You're like, oh, I use that word.
True.
Look at me. I'm awesome. But you actually misused it, and now you look kind of stupid. And we know you're reaching beyond your ability. So stay in your lane. Use a language that is comfortable, that you're going to use most effectively. Be careful about the thesaurus watch. Every now and then you throw in an $8 word. If you're using it correctly, by all means, go ahead and do so. But know your role, stay in your lane, and you'll find that you tell the most compelling story that way. Well, we certainly hope you learned a lot here on understanding essay writing for the college application process. When we come back, we have a special guest from Lehigh University who's going to join us. Fantastic school. She's got a lot to share. So stick around. We'll be right back with College Admissions Unscripted.
See ya.
Are you an accountant looking to grow your business? CorpNet can help. Through the CorpNet Partner Program, you can offer your clients incorporation services, LLC filings, annual report filings, and so much more in all 50 states. As your silent fulfillment partner, we'll do all the work while you get all the credit. Your client, your brand, we do all the work. There's no cost to join and no monthly fees. Sign up today at www.corpnet.com.
Welcome back to College Admissions Unscripted. I'm Rob Schwartz alongside my tag team partner, Trevor Mizrahi. We have arrived at section 2 of today's show, and you guys are very lucky today because we have a special guest joining us from Northern California, but representing a fantastic university across the United States. We are meeting with Morgan Volkart, Associate Vice Provost at Lehigh University. Morgan, we are honored and privileged to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here too.
We're excited to have you. And I think both Trevor and I have had students who have applied and I believe have been admitted to Lehigh in the past. We know the reputation of the school, but this conversation is all about you being a representative, being able to share more in-depth information with our audience, primarily based here in California. So let me give you kind of just a general kick it off question. Pick one thing about Lehigh University that you think is just awesome that everyone should know about.
Wow, that is a tough question to pick one. I did go to Lehigh myself, by the way, so I am an alum. I have been with Lehigh for a while. And gosh, I think one of the things that I really wish that I could have taken advantage of as a student at Lehigh back in the day is definitely our Western regional presence. So I'm based in Northern California, as you mentioned, specifically in San Francisco, and we have 5 staff members out here. And we cover the entire Western region, so 13 states, including Hawaii, and not just to recruit students, but to provide opportunities for students to engage with the many different opportunities and culture on the West Coast, right? So you get to be a student at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and experience the different culture and opportunities that exist there, but then keep your ties to the West Coast, right? So our office, the Western Regional Office, and our center called the Lehigh at NASDAQ Center, which is right in the financial district of San Francisco, allows students access to startups, companies, industry engagement, professionals in the field. We're very much engaged with our alumni network here. And so it's really all about providing opportunities for students and allowing, especially for those students from the West Coast, like myself, I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and went to Lehigh, to maintain their ties, right? Because chances are they're probably going to land back on the West Coast eventually, maybe not right away, but maybe down the road. And so to have those opportunities lined up, to have Lehigh staff on the ground ready to help them, even during their time at Lehigh, to land that internship in the summertime or that co-op, and build that network and those connections, I think is really special and something that is pretty unique about Lehigh now. And I wish I had that opportunity when I was a student.
Morgan, I find Lehigh to be so intriguing. of a institution, and I have had a couple of students go there. And I know that it's driven by success of the student. That's really something that Lehigh really touts. I'm curious, how does Lehigh really think of doing a gap year, knowing that there's studies done that show that students actually perform better throughout their time at a university once they've actually done a gap year? I'm just curious how your institution looks at that.
Yeah, so I think it all depends about how the student spends that gap year, right? As long as they're doing something productive, they've been really thoughtful about it, that's going to make a world of difference. So when I'm looking at an application and I see a student who's done a gap year, I'm going to be looking for indicators of what they did. You know, how did they spend that time? And there's opportunities within the common application, which we use for them to be able to talk about that. And there's, you know, plenty of things that we see that are productive ways of using that time, from you know, doing international programming. We have some students who are international students who serve in the military for 2 years. So they're technically taking 2 years off before they join Lehigh. But whatever it is that they're doing, it, like you said, it oftentimes adds to the experience that they're going to have at Lehigh. They bring a different perspective. They have additional experience to bring into the classroom and the community that they may not have had otherwise. And so I think it benefits everybody, including that student, again, as long as they spent that time productively, right?
Let's get into what makes Lehigh a great institution in general. I mean, so many people here in California are used to Cal State University and UC, with so many being hyper-focused on UC. Lehigh is a totally different experience. I was wondering if you could take a few minutes just to kind of walk through, what is that experience like? You're a freshman walking onto campus. What is that like compared to something you would find out here in the greater, you know, California area?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. I was a freshman once myself, and I also looked at lots of schools in California. That was the other place I was looking at besides Lehigh. And I think, you know, for me, the difference in experience is really like, you know, I mean, the size is different than a lot of schools that you'll see in California. We are medium-sized, 5,000 students, but just a really friendly, welcoming environment. You know, as a freshman, you're going to get there a week in advance and you're going to attend an orientation. You might even do our prelusion programs where you sign up for programs with students who have similar interests to yourself and get to connect with them before you start orientation, get to move in early. And then you're going to find yourself on campus. You're going to go to the Club Expo. You're going to learn about 250 clubs and organizations, Greek life, athletics. You're going to join lots of clubs, meet lots of students. And you're going to just really be immersed in the Lehigh experience early on. We also have a program. It's called our freshman rally. And this is when we bring alumni from the past 50 years back to campus. And they actually adopt our incoming freshmen into what we call the Lehigh family. And so not only are you welcomed by our faculty, staff, and upperclassmen, but also by our alumni. And it's just a really special event, one of the many traditions that we have at Lehigh. And I think some of our traditions are also what make us different. So that's the first tradition that you'll experience is the freshman rally, followed by Spirit Week, when we have bed races. We have a day where our marching band takes over the campus. We have the longest played rivalry in the history of college football, in case those of you out there didn't know that. So lots of school spirit for a school of 5,000 undergraduate students. Not only that, but you're going to find early on that Lehigh is a very personalized institution as well, which I think is hard to find out here. We have a 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio. That doesn't mean, you know, that your classes are just going to be small. They will be on the smaller side, but that our faculty are at Lehigh because they really want to get to know their students and work hand in hand with them on research. So I would also describe us as a personalized research institution as well, where you're not required to do research, but you're going to have lots of opportunities, even as a freshman on our campus, to engage in research, not only with your professors, if you're interested in doing that, but also in your own pursuits. So we encourage students to develop an entrepreneurial way of thinking, regardless of their discipline at Lehigh. And so that can come out through their own independent research that they get funded for, through projects that they're doing in our massive maker spaces on our mountaintop campus. Any of this can be started in their freshman year, and they're going to learn about all of these great opportunities early on. And not only that, they can come in and take whatever classes they want. They don't have to declare a major early on. They don't have to declare a major when they apply. So I think that was very different from my experience in looking at a lot of schools in California, was that Lehigh just had flexibility that I couldn't find elsewhere. And ultimately, I came into Lehigh thinking as a freshman, I want to major in chemistry. Quickly realized did not want to spend my life in a lab. Actually switched into Lehigh's College of Business from Arts and Sciences, but because of the flexibility, was still taking courses in things like Asian studies and sociology, things I didn't have in high school that I just developed this passion for at Lehigh. And ultimately, I still was able to double major in 4 years. I ended up switching out of business back to arts and sciences and did my double major in sociology and Asian studies, and didn't have to sacrifice anything else to be able to do that in 4 years. I still studied abroad. I did multiple internships and played a Division I sport all 4 years. And I honestly don't think I could have done that at any other school, or if I had gone to school in California, it may have taken me 5 or 6 years to do what I did at Lehigh in 4 years. And so honestly, I think the amount of things that you can do in 4 years makes Lehigh a really special place.
Morgan, I think you just painted that picture for us, and just seeing how you were able to endeavor in all those different activities and still thrive and finish in 4 years is amazing. Now, you mentioned something that I think is antithetical to what so many parents are advising their students on, which is you need to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. You need to pick a major before you go to this college. Maybe just speak to us a little bit about, like, are students at a disadvantage if they apply undecided, or what's the way that maybe the university really kind of mentors or ushers students through that process of figuring that out?
Yeah, you're definitely not at a disadvantage at Lehigh if you're not sure what you want to study now. I think sometimes students are leaning in different directions, and that's great. Sometimes students know exactly what they want to study, and they come to Lehigh too, and they hit the ground running, and are also pursuing multiple majors or integrated programs. But when you apply to Lehigh, you do choose one of our 4 undergraduate colleges. So that might be arts and sciences, business, engineering, or our new College of Health. And then once you do that, you'll enter into that college. The only difference is, you're taking in sort of an introductory course. For instance, in engineering, you'll take an intro to engineering where they're going to talk about, all 20 programs that we offer in engineering. You'll meet the professors, learn about their research, get a broader understanding of engineering, and also help you to understand which area you want to focus in, right? And then maybe by the end of the first year, you declare your major, maybe beginning of sophomore year. But regardless, nothing's set in stone. We have students who say, after that first year in engineering, you know what? I don't want to be in engineering anymore. I actually really like these courses I'm taking in the other college as well. So they switch from one college to another, which students can do at the end of their first year, and still be on track, because in like arts and sciences and business, students don't need to declare a major until the end of that second year. So you're not going to be behind if you're unsure. There's lots of options. There's nothing that's impacted. Nobody's going to say, sorry, there's not enough room in this major in this college for you to be able to pursue what you've decided, a year in that you're now passionate about and you want to pursue. And, like with my experience, it didn't stop me from being able to double major. And lots of students come to Lehigh and, pursue integrated majors in business and engineering, arts and engineering, so many fields that I think a lot of students think are very unrelated and couldn't imagine combining, or really have an interest in those areas, but don't know that there's programs out there that exist to help them to integrate the two. And I think Lehigh offers a really special opportunity to be able to pursue those multiple interests that may seem somewhat unrelated from each other while they're in high school and thinking about things, but are very much related. And we're all about interdisciplinary education at Lehigh. And advising students and guiding them through the process, whether that's their faculty advisor, a Lehigh alum mentor. They're also going to have upperclassmen peers who are mentors to them as well. And then, of course, our career services office that works with them starting their freshman year. So just lots of sources of helpful folks and offices and centers on our campus that are going to be in their corner from day one.
We've been with Morgan Volkart, Associate Vice Provost at Lehigh University. Reach out, ask questions. People like Morgan are here to help you. They want to make sure you land in the right place. So with that said, Morgan, it has been a pleasure having you here. It's been another fun episode of College Admissions Unscripted. Along with Trevor, I'm Rob. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back again very soon with another episode. We'll see you soon.